I've spent the last year involved in a number of diversity initiatives. The first one being for the global creative network She Says, for whom I run a women's mentoring programme, and that's open to any woman at any level within the industry. It's all run by volunteers, and that's to help women maintain their careers but also reach their full potential. And we've got a number of awesome ladies from across the MullenLowe Group UK network involved in that programme as either mentors or mentees. The second initiative that I've been involved in, which I helped set up, was Token Man. So that's where a senior woman in the industry interviews a senior man and talks about the diversity challenge across the industry, but also in particular in creative departments. We've had a number of our senior chaps from MullenLowe Group being interviewed for that. So I've learned a lot about how CEOs, MDs, leaders of business are tackling the diversity issue. So I think really what I've learned from being part of these initiatives over the last year or so is that you can build a diverse team by design. There are certain things that we can do to achieve that, and the reason that is important, the reason why diverse teams are important, I think is well documented, and that is because they create more successful businesses and more innovative businesses, and I think those are two key measures that the creative industry looks to achieve. I think when building diverse teams, it is important to create a culture where people can thrive, and there are a number of things that come into play. A lot of people talk about the issues that women face and how that can hinder their career progression, and why we see so many people, women, fall away at mid-career point. The fact is that what people are genuinely referencing there are not women's issues, they're parenting issues. So if we talk about that kind of midlife moment, and I think that as a leader of a business, there are things that you can do to help women and parents thrive. So there's a real challenge with presenteeism. We talk a lot about that in our industry and how important it is to be present. Actually, what I've learned from some of the best CEOs in the business is that they're leading teams all over the world and can't be present everywhere. So it's about giving people the leadership skills to feel that they don't have to always be present, but they can lead whether they're at their desk or not. And I think that helps give people that balance that they're looking for to try and achieve these two things. I think it's also very important that men are positively encouraged to also ask for flexible working conditions, and that whether it's shared parental leave or leaving on time to do the school run, that these are not things that just women are asking for, but that actually, particularly our male leaders, are seen to encourage and be supportive of other men throughout the business also asking for that level of flexibility, because then it becomes less and less about a woman just asking for those things. Another aspect that is really important to look at when talking about building diverse team is how we hire. And something I've learned again from talking to business leaders on their hiring policies is how important it is to make sure that you have a sourcing strategy at the very top of the funnel, so at the beginning of the process of when you hire, that has diversity at its heart. So making sure that baked into how you hire is thinking about how you can get the broadest selection of people at the very beginning of when you start receiving CVs or portfolios. So I think that is about policy and working with your headhunters or your HR team to make sure that they understand that's part of our agenda. You cannot get away from the fact that we all have unconscious bias. So what I hear a lot is, I don't see colour, race or gender when I'm hiring. That is not important to me because all I see is talent. So I'm certainly not in any way discriminating against anyone, because I just make sure I get the best person for the job. I think the challenge with that is that it doesn't recognise that we all have unconscious bias, and so the likes of Facebook and Google have open source policies with their training, so any one of us can go online and access Facebook's unconscious bias training, and it's not a silver bullet. And so there has been some debate about the value of unconscious bias training, but I think it is part of a broader agenda to make sure that people in hiring positions in our organisations understand that it is not enough to say, I just hire the best talent. Something else that I've found really interesting, actually when speaking to Rory Sutherland in an interview, was his point of view on hiring in groups and the benefit of doing that. And what he spoke about was when you hire in the singular for an individual role, often you are much more risk averse. One way that you can get around being so risk averse is to hire in groups. There aren't that many instances where you hire in groups, but when you're opening an office, for instance, being part of a global network, I mean, I find myself at the moment opening an office in Abu Dhabi, and we're hiring multiple people in one a time. And what that enables you to do is be less risk averse and actually think about the hires across the whole team. A lot of the time we think very much about the role we're hiring for rather than what is good for the whole team and how can we bring in a really diverse, different from each other kind of group that can have quite someone can have skills that this person doesn't have, but together as a combination they can help and support each other and build this really wonderful team. Something that I think people are quite nervous about when we start talking about diversity is almost assigning differences by gender, and it's a very personal point of view, but I think I certainly see differences. And I think rather than pretending they don't exist, it would be more helpful if we learn how to manage them. And I think if we recognise some of those differences, then we are less likely to find ourselves in situations, for instance, where women are told by some very, very senior men and high-profile men in our industry that they need to behave more like men. That for women to get on in their careers, they should be more aggressive, for instance. And I fundamentally believe, and everything that CEOs have told me, is that where we've got to in business, the fact that CEOs completely understand, it's something that keeps them up at night. They need more diverse workforces to be more innovative and more successful. The last thing they want is for the people that they hire or the people in their business to all be behaving alike, to be the same. They don't want sameness, they want difference. So if you are in a group that is different from other people in your department, in your agency, celebrate that and fundamentally be your authentic self. Because as a woman you do not need to be more aggressive, you don't need to present like a man, you don't need to take feedback more like a man. Be yourself, because that's what the business needs and that is what is going to make us different and successful.